How is everyone today? Yeah, good. I did I ever tell you all about class next week? How we're not having class next week? Okay. I think the reason why, because I wasn't 100% sure, but I did get approval to go to a conference on Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday next week, and so we will not have class at all. I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to move up a couple of your project recipes. And so the rub will be one of them, which we've already done in class. And then I think I'm going to move up the vegetables because that's going to be something that's semi easy. Um, and so during the time that I'm in the conference on um, Monday, let me double check my calendar real quick. Monday, Tuesday, um, and Wednesday, I will be on my office hours Zoom link. So if you do have any questions, I'll be on my phone on my Zoom link. I can help you out if you have questions about those recipes. Okay. Um, so that will be next week, and then the following week we will. If we don't get through chapter 7 today, we'll continue it on Wednesday, and then at that point we'll continue for chapter 8 the following week. All right, so we've talked about in chapters 5 and 6 the purchasing cycle. What's the first stage of the purchasing cycle? Purchasing. And then we follow it with receiving, what we talked about last week. And then now we talked a little bit about receiving and storing, and now we're talking about issuing. Okay. So how do we control our costs when it's in production? Okay. And then once we go through this after issuing, bless you, we take inventory and then we purchase again. Okay. So there's two things that we need to determine how much product to prepare. One of them is our sales history, and the other one is our menu mix. How does our sales history help us know how much product to prepare for? Yeah, it tells us how much we've sold in the past. Okay, good. What else? It helps you forecast it. Absolutely. We talked about forecasting back, I believe, in chapter 2. Okay, when we talked about budgeting and how much to forecast for the future when we're budgeting. Our sales history does the same thing. It allows us to know when holidays fall on a weekend versus a weekday, when we have special events that are in town, all that sales history. We can also even just use it for everyday, regular day-to-day business. You know, how busy are we on Mondays, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, etc. during the week? Okay. The other one is our menu mix. What is menu mix? It's our popularity percentage. So menu mix is another way of saying popularity percentage. Okay, so Sarah, give me a number between 0 and 200, but make it a 25 increment. 0 and 200. 125 hamburgers. Okay. Excellent. Raphael. Yep, between 1 and 2, between 0 and 200, but make it an increment of 25. Okay. Daisy. 75. And Liz. 175. All right, we're selling a lot of veggie burgers. Okay. So how do we find the popularity percentage of these items? We add them all up, right? So that is 5, 10, 15. 2, 5 is 7, and 7 is 14. 15 plus 7 is 22. 2, 3, 4, 5. 525. Do we all agree? Can you check my math for me, please? Okay. And so now we're going to divide each one of these by 525. Does this look familiar? Hopefully it does from chapter 4. Okay. I see a lot of y'all not writing anything down. I am like this close to just turning this off and just walking away, and you guys can watch my video from last semester. I'm not up here to talk just because I know this information. But if you're not writing this down and later on you come back and you're just like, Miss Uminski, I don't get it, I don't understand it, well, it's probably because you're not taking notes in class. You can't just sit there and stare at me and absorb the information. All right, so these should all be percentage numbers. Who has the percentage for hamburgers? 23.8%. And the cheeseburgers? Round to the nearest round to the nearest one decimal we don't have to round up in percentages. Oh yeah, so 28.6. Okay. Hot dogs. And veggie burgers. So if we add all this up, we should get close to 100. We might be a little bit over because we're rounding. So 8 plus 6 is 14. Plus 6 is 20. 10, 13, 14, 15, 16. Oops, that's no decimal right there. 2, 4, 6, and 4 is 10. Yep, 100%. Okay? So that means we did it right. Now, how can we use this information to know how much to prepare for in the future? Well, yes, we're going to be able to take these percentages and determine, are we always going to sell 525 portions? No. Dylan, give me a number that's larger or smaller than 525. 670, okay. So now what happens, instead of having 525, I'm gonna go ahead and make it 675, just kind of keep with the 25, okay? If we have 675 covers, we know there's a big conference in town, or we know there's a big holiday coming up, right? We can now multiply by these percentages to help us know how many portions to prepare for. So now what is 675 times 23.8%? Jonathan, 23.8% times 675. 160.7. Okay. And Noah, what about the cheeseburgers? 28.6 times 675. Okay, did you move it to the decimal place to the left? $193.0. Okay. So 193. Excellent. London, what'd you get for hot dogs? Bless you, 96.5. Okay. And then Andre, what did you get for veggie burgers? 33.3% times 675. You can use 0.8. Okay, cool. So these decimals, of course, we can either round them up by one or just keep it the whole number. Okay. So this tells me, do we all agree with these numbers? Okay. So this tells me that as I'm getting ready to prepare for, if I know a conference is coming up, I know this big holiday is coming up, rather than me, bless you, rather than me than just saying, oh, well, I think I'm going to go ahead and prepare this number, just pull it out of thin air, you can actually figure out based on your percentages, this menu mix percentage of how much you should actually prepare. Okay. Now, provided that the final exam has not changed, the publisher has not changed the final exam for this particular semester. There's probably about 5 or 6 questions that are like this on your final exam. It's going to say, it's going to ask you either what is the popularity percentage, okay, so you'd be figuring this out, or it's going to say we had how many cheeseburgers should we prepare for if they have a 28.6% popularity and we expect to have 500 people. Okay, so there's gonna be about 4 or 5, maybe 5 or 6 questions on the final exam about this menu mix and this popularity percentage. All right. So the next thing, as we're controlling how much product to prepare, is scaling our recipes up and down. Okay. And we use that to do our conversion factor. We use that conversion factor to be able to scale our recipes up or down, because sometimes, especially when we're thinking about baking, a baking recipe for bread may make 500 rolls. But if I only have an event for 200 people, I don't want to make 500 rolls. If we go back to that lemon example from the very beginning of the semester, how much cost effective it is if we control that lemon going out with the iced tea. The same thing will be for this case. If we don't prepare all those extra rolls, it doesn't go to waste, right? And so we're going to use this conversion factor. We take what we need, okay, and we divide by the recipe yield. So what is the conversion factor if we need to serve 40 people and the recipe yields 4 people or 4 servings? We need 40, okay? We divide that by 4 servings from the recipe yield. And so what is our conversion factor? 10. So if the conversion factor is 10 and the recipe uses 3 pounds of pork, how much do we need for the scaled recipe? 3 pounds times 10 is our conversion factor. We need 30 pounds. Okay. In this same scenario, what if I only need 8 servings? If I said I need 8 servings, what are you going to do to the recipe? You're going to double it, right? Because 8 divided by 4 is 2. So we're going to double it. We're going to triple it, right? Based on that, that's basically doing your conversion factor. You already know how to do that. But sometimes it's a decimal, okay? And sometimes we can also scale down as like if the next example, okay? So if a recipe yields 32 servings, we only need to serve 20. So we need 20 servings. Our recipe yields 32 servings. So what is 20 divided by 32? 0.625? Okay. So 0.625 is my conversion factor. So this is actually going down. Now if I need 14 pounds of flour, and I multiply that by 0.625, what is my new flour amount? Sorry, 8.75? Thank you. 8.75 pounds. So this conversion factor allows us to go up and down however we need to. All right, we have one more example on our page. So let's do an example together. So we have 3 on our page here. We have 1, 2, 3 examples, right? So we're on the bottom example. Who wants to give me the number of servings that we need? 100? 500 servings. We need 500 servings. And what does our recipe yield? 5? So our conversion factor is 100. So we'll take whatever we need and multiply it by 100. All those ingredients and multiply it by 100. Questions about conversion factors? All right, let's talk baker's percentage for a moment. How many bakers do we have in here? Baking pastry students? Just a couple. Okay, awesome. Culinary, any culinary students? Hospitality, anybody? Hotel, restaurant? Okay. Baker's percentage, it works very similar to the menu mix example that we just did, okay, in a way. But in baker's percentage, flour is always 100%. Okay. Now, We are going to do very, very, very basic baker's percentage. Okay, there is where you have multiple flours in the recipe, and I don't know how to do that. Okay, I'm going to stay in my lane. I know the mathematical way of doing basic baker's percentage. You'll have to talk to your pastries teachers about how to do it when there's multiple flours. Okay, but essentially, flour is our 100%. Everything else, as long as it's in the same units, is basically a percentage of that flour weight. Okay, so for our flour weight of 50 pounds, what is the percentage? 100%. So on this table right here, we have flour weight 50 pounds. Percentage is 100. Okay. Our water is 33 pounds. So we take our water, 33 pounds, and divide by our 50 pounds. And that's going to give us a percentage. In this case, it is 66%. Our salt is 1 pound divided by 50 pounds is equal to 2%. And lastly, our yeast is 0.6 pounds divided by 50 pounds. 1.2%. Okay. Now we can take the new flour weight, which is what? Christina, give us a number anywhere between 25 and 200. Okay, so we're gonna go 350 is our new flour weight, 350 pounds. So let's do new flour weight of 350 all the way down this column, 350, 350, 350, 350. Okay. What is 350 times 100%, which is essentially 1, right? Because 100%, we move that decimal place over 2, and we get 1. So 350 times 1 is 350 pounds. What is 350 times 0.66? So 221 pounds, 31, sorry. All right. And then 350 times 0.02, which is 2%. Be 70. Yep, okay. 7? Okay. Yes, that makes sense. All right, and then the last one is 350 times 1.2. So actually 0.12. Write it as a decimal. Forty what? 42? 4.2. Yep. Okay. So that is now how we can scale our recipe up and down. We know how we can easily move forward. When you think about like the baker shows that you see on TV, the cooking competitions, right? And they're making those recipes so quickly. It's because they know the percentages of the weight to each ingredient, and they can go ahead and just make that recipe, scale it up or scale it down based on those. Well, I would like to think that they know those percentages. I don't know if that's truly accurate, because some of those things don't really come out very perfectly. But so that is how we can use Baker's percentage. Okay. Questions, comments, concerns? Yes. Yes. So that's a very good question. So what we can do is, so we just picked that random 350 pounds of flour, right? But we can actually figure that out mathematically. So let's say this 50 pounds of flour, let's say this makes 400 rolls. So if this recipe yields 400 rolls, okay, and I need to do 1,000 rolls. Okay. So how do we figure out what our conversion factor is? Remember, we do 1,000 is what I need divided by what the recipe yields. And what do I get? 1,000 divided by 400 should be 2 point something. 2.5? Okay. So 2.5 is my conversion factor. Well, if my conversion factor is 2.5, 50, which is my original weight, $50 times 2.5 is 125. Well, that's my new flour weight. And now I can multiply by the 0.66, by the 0.2, and the point. Let's just do that right now. In that second one right here, let's just do the first half of it. So our new flour weight is 125 pounds. Okay. Percentages stay the same. So what is 125 times 0.66? Because 0.66 is our water percentage. 82.5 pounds of water. Okay. My salt is 2%. So 125 times 0.02. 2.4. 2.5. Okay. And then our yeast is 125 times 0.012. 1.5. Okay. So that's how we can use that to figure out, we can use that conversion factor to figure out what our new flour weight is, and then use those percentages to figure out what the scaled weight is of each ingredient. Right? Because if our recipe makes 400 rolls and I only need 1,000 only, if I say triple it, well, that's going to, if I multiply this by 3, I'm going to get 1,200 rolls. That's 200 extra rolls. That not only am I wasting money on ingredients, I'm also wasting money on labor. I'm wasting money on electricity and utilities to bake those 200 extra rolls. I'm wasting labor on people trying to get those rolls into baskets, right? So all that stuff adds up. And so if I want to just control my cost, only make what I actually need. Okay? Questions, comments, concerns about that? All right, so we also want to, in the process of issuing, we also want to make sure we're monitoring how the food is produced. Okay. How many of you have worked in food service before? Okay. How often has it happened where your manager orders something off the menu, maybe two or three things off the menu? Okay. They're not telling you, hey, don't tell the cook. They don't say don't tell the cooks, but they're just say, hey, can you ring me in for a chicken parmesan, an Asian salad, and a steak well done. Okay. So those three things come out, and then they want to check it to make sure that it actually looks exactly like it's supposed to look. Okay. They want to make sure that the ingredients are exactly how it's supposed to look. Um, they want to make sure that the flavors are, if it's a steak, that the meat that the steak is temped and it's cooked to the right temperature. All those things is they're monitoring those quality standards, okay, to make sure that people are always producing the food that it needs to do. Okay. We also want to look at the production process. So how many of you have been prep cooks? Anybody been a prep cook? Okay. So Noah, when you're a prep cook, how do you know how much food to prepare for? Do you just go back there and say, this looks good, I'm going to start making this? Yeah, absolutely. So typically, just like we have par in what we're ordering, there's also usually a par on what we need. So, like Noah just said, during the weekdays, they maybe only need one batch of that particular item, but on the weekends, they need to have two of them on hand. And so when we come in for our shift, we look to see what is the par for today. The par is one. We have half of a pan left over from last night, so I'm going to go ahead and make one. Or I have two as my par, and I have half of one, so I'm going to go ahead and make two, right? So we had those prep sheets that typically your chef is going to prepare and tell you what amounts you need to prepare for, and you typically have a certain amount of time to do that in. When, excuse me, when I was at Chester's Hamburgers, the opening team, we would usually go in, depending on what position we were in. If I was the kitchen, then my job was to cut the French fries for the day. So the manager would go and look to see how many fries were left over from the night before. And then they'd look to say, okay, today we need to have 150 pounds cut. And we already have 25. So, David, I need you to cut 125 pounds. Okay. And then the lunch rush happens. And to get through the night, we need this many pounds. We have this already on hand. You need to do this. Same thing with all of the vegetables that go on the burgers. So the par would be, let's say, 10 crocks of tomatoes in the fridge. And so after the lunch rush, we go in and look, we have 3 crocks of tomatoes. That means I need to do 7. I know there's 5 tomatoes per crock. So I got to go back to the refrigerator and get 35 tomatoes, right? So we do that prep to make sure that the product is fresh. It's not just all made in the morning and then it's lasts through the whole day, right? We could do that if the product has a longer shelf life, but we're maintaining that production process to make sure we're not overproducing. If we overproduce, then that product could go bad, and then we would lose the money on that if we don't sell it. Okay. All right. Ensure proper holding temperatures. Why is it important to ensure the proper holding temperatures? So your food doesn't go bad. It's not within the temperature danger zone, which is what now? Is it 41 to 141? They change it all the time. Is it 42? Because when I did it was 40 to 140. So within that 40 to 40, 140, that 41 to 141 time, that temperature danger zone, why do they call it the temperature danger zone? Because that's how that's when bacteria can grow. It's ideal conditions, which then people can get sick, right? And so if it's cold, it needs to be less than 40. If it's hot, it needs to be above 141, right? And so we want to ensure that we're holding those temperatures, those products, in a safe way. Carryovers are things they're going to carry over from one meal period to another. Okay. And so, how do we get something like soup that's held hot out of that temperature or through that temperature danger zone relatively quickly? Give it an ice bath. Okay. And that allows us to cool that down to where it's below 40. Then we can stick it in the refrigerator overnight. And then we heat it up above 140 and we can serve it again. Okay. So those carryovers are different things that we can use from one meal period to another. Okay. We could also use leftovers in a creative way. So on your paper, I want you to write 2 ways that you think we can use leftovers in a creative way. Something that's left over from the night before and you want to use it. We often put it on special. It's a special limited menu. Makes it seem more important. And then people want to buy it, but what we're doing is we're just using leftovers. How many of y'all have seen at HEB those containers of rotisserie chicken? Like the smaller containers that's like the meat's already pulled off the bone, right? That is literally the chickens that didn't sell the day before. They just pulled the meat off the bone for you, put it into a package, and charged you more than the whole chicken to begin with, right? Because they have that extra labor of pulling the chicken. But rather than if the chickens don't sell, we don't just throw them away. We're going to take all that meat off and then sell it to you again in a different way. So that's one way. Yes, sir. Um, I don't know if that's that the exact pricing, but because I haven't been to Cisco or Costco in a long time. But oftentimes when they are using those rotisserie chickens, one of two things is happening. One, they're either buying it in such large quantity that the price per item is lower, or they are taking a loss on that particular item because they know that you're coming to Costco just to get that $6 rotisserie. And at the same time that you're there, you also are going to pick up extra other things that they're going to basically make up the money for it. Either that at cost or take a loss for it. I think at Sam's that's like $4.99 or $5 for the rotisserie chicken, right? And so that they're relying on the fact that you're going to go not only just buy that, but buy additional things. Yep. Good question. All right. So what are some of the examples y'all came up with to use creative leftovers? Yeah. So take leftover risotto. Once it's cooled down, then you can scoop it out, bread it, fry it, and you make little croquettes, little fried risotto balls. And then you probably charge a pretty nice price for that product that's already left over, right? You just want to make sure you sell it, but not throw it away. Good. What else? Noah. Okay. Yeah. Excellent. Yeah, you can make that bread into crackers or croutons. How else can you creatively use bread, reuse bread? Bread pudding. Yeah, when I worked at the Sheraton Gunther, we had a buffet each night before the Majestic Theater shows. And the bread pudding was my favorite. And it was like 6 months in that I realized all the pastries that didn't sell at the bakery, they would chop up and make into the bread, add to the bread pudding. It made it really good. Jonathan, do you have an example? Oh, nice. Okay. So like the leaves from the celery. Okay. You add that to the salad. Okay, nice. That's good. Anybody else? No? All right. Usually, when you are in a situation where you're in a more of an independent restaurant, you have flexibility to do stuff like that. When you're at a corporate restaurant or you're at a chain restaurant, you have less flexibility, if not any. You have no flexibility to create specials and go off menu like that. All right. How are we doing on time? Oh, we got plenty of time. Let's talk about beverages for a moment. True or false? Beverages have recipes just like food. Thumbs up for true, thumbs down for false. Okay. The answer is true. Recipes, beverages have recipes just like food does. Okay. Who can give me an example of a beverage that might have a recipe just like something like a food item would have? A margarita. Okay. There's a specific amount of each type of liquid that goes into that drink. Okay. What else? Any cocktail. Okay, good. Any mixed drink. How about any non-alcoholic beverages? A milkshake or a Shirley Temple, which is typically grenadine, Sprite, some cherries. Anything else? Yep. Yeah. Pretty much just don't add the alcohol. Yeah. So if you have a virgin margarita, you're literally drinking sweet and sour if you use sweet and sour, or you're literally just drinking lime juice and some maybe add a little bit of like Sprite or something, right? If you're doing um, a virgin pina colada, you're usually it's just like heavy cream and pineapple juice because you're just taking out the rum. Um, Strawberry daiquiri is literally just blended up strawberries with some ice. And some sugar maybe. So virgin or what we call mocktails now, because I don't know, they've changed the vernacular, the terminology, but mocktails now are really popular, especially for people who don't drink alcohol. And they cost either just as much or just right below what an alcoholic beverage costs. Um, and so you can make a lot of money in serving mocktails on your menu. And you already have the ingredients. You just take out the alcohol and you're pretty much in good shape. So, good question. 1 liter equals how many ounces? Is it 32.8? 33.8. I thought so. So 1 liter equals 33.8 ounces. Okay. In America, we like to use ounces, cups, tablespoons, teaspoons, quarts, gallons. In 99% of the rest of the world, they use the metric system, which is liters and milliliters, which makes things so much easier to measure and convert. And so if 1 liter equals 33.8 ounces, 1 liter also equals 1,000 milliliters. So if I wanted 750 milliliters, it's just 0.75 of a liter. Very easy to convert. But how many ounces are in 750 milliliters? Okay, so we're going to take 33.8 ounces that are in our liter, and we're going to multiply by 0.75 because 750 milliliters is 0.75 of 1 liter. So 33.8 times 0.75, 25.35 ounces. Why do you think I chose 750 milliliters for this example? For those of you who don't know, 750 milliliters is the standard bottle of wine. So 750 milliliters is a standard bottle of wine, just a regular bottle of wine you buy off the shelf. Okay. So if I have a 6-ounce pour, meaning my serving size of wine is 6 ounces, how many glasses do I get out of each bottle? 25.35 divided by 6 ounces is 4.22. Okay. So I get 4 servings essentially. That 0.22 is what we call spillage. Okay. So we account for spillage. Meaning, what if somebody accidentally serves 6.2 ounces instead of 6 ounces? Okay. What if they literally spill? As they're pouring, it splashes out and they literally spill some wine or whatever the beverage we're pouring. So spillage is basically accounts for either actual literal spilling or a little bit over serving. Okay. How many ounces are in 1.5 liters? So 33.8 ounces is in 1 liter, and we multiply by 1.5. 50.7 ounces. 1.5 liters, if you're thinking about spirits, is typically what we call a handle. Any bottle that has a big handle on it, the spirits, that's liquor, is usually 1.5, or the giant bottles of wine are 1.5 liters. Okay. So let's do this example that we have on our page here. Let me get to a whiteboard. Okay, so our example we have on our notes page, we buy a 750 milliliter bottle of Jack Daniel's whiskey for $22.09. Okay. A standard pour, which means our standard serving, is 1.5 ounces. So first question, how many servings should we expect to get from one bottle? Okay. What was 750? How many ounces were in 750 milliliters? 25.35? Okay. So if we take 25.35 and we divide that by our 1.5 ounce standard portion, we get 16.9 servings. Okay. I'm going to go ahead and say this is 16 servings. What does that extra 0.9 represent? Spillage. Okay. So we should get 16 servings out of this one bottle. What is our cost per serving? Remember, we have cost per serving. The word per is our division line. So our cost per serving, $22.09 divided by 16 servings. I got 139. Do we all agree? $1.39. Questions how I got that? All right, moving along. The third question. If we sell Jack Daniel's on the rocks for $7.50, how much money in sales should we expect from one bottle? So we have 16 servings in the bottle, and we sell it for $7.50. We should expect to get $120 in sales from that one bottle. Now, what happens if we only get 13 servings? Bless you. 13, how many servings did we lose? We lost 3 servings, right? So 16 minus the 13 that we got, we lost 3 servings times our $7.50 is $22.50. Lost sales. $22.50. If I do this on an annual basis, this happens every day. Let's say I'm closed 5 days out of the year. 360 days times $22.50 is $8,100. Do we all agree? 2250 times 360. $8,100. That's just one drink that we serve from the bar. Yes. We're gonna be closed 5 days a year. We're gonna give our employees 5 days of a break. We're gonna be so generous. They don't have to work on Christmas Day or New Year's Day. Okay. $8,110 if we're not paying attention. Just like in the kitchen, as we talked about last time, we're taking the inventory of the perpetual, compare it to our physical. And if there's a missing steak, we got to do something about it. The same thing in our bar needs to happen as well. Okay. We have to track that information to be able to see that. Okay. So now, in the last few minutes of class, I'm gonna show two YouTube videos. And usually YouTube doesn't like when I record YouTube videos and then post it as my own YouTube video. So I'm going to stop the recording for class today unless there's any questions. And then we're going to watch the videos. I will post them. They should be in the module already. So if you're absent, you can go watch them anyways.